Thanks for joining us for this stakeholder meeting. We have lots to cover today, variety of topics. We'll start out with a safety moment here. Spring cleaning for fire safety inside and outside your house. Make sure to test your home smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, check the expiration date on your fire extinguishers. Don't use electrical appliances with frayed cords. Check around water for electrical appliances and clean your clothes dryer, lint trap, and exhaust ducts. Outside your home, make sure to remove dead leaves and other debris around your foundation, decks, porches, stairs. Check for rodents, live critters. Check your grills for rust, worn parts, and grease before using. And keep active grills at least 10 feet away from structures and overhanging branches.
Yeah, I'm muted.
All right. Thank you so much. And with that, I will turn us over to our fearless leader.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Harvey. I am the Director of Customer Renewable Solutions. We have an exciting agenda today. I'm pretty excited about it. This represents a lot of work that was done by Austin Energy staff, and I just want to take a minute to recognize the team and all of the other teams at Austin Energy that helped support this. So great job, guys. I'm going to jump right in to a rate update. And so here is the very first public peek at what has been assessed in terms of the avoided costs to Austin Energy for solar generation in our service territory. This also includes our societal benefits assessment. So you can see here, looking at the FY25 data, let's just start with energy. So you'll see that's at 2.8 cents, a lot lower than any other year. That's because if we didn't have energy scarcity events, the grid was prepared to meet the load. And there weren't any extreme weather events. So, you know, when the grid remains prepared to meet the load, and the generation on the grid is the same, then, you know, the prices are low. That's what happens. We had a long, mild summer, and so the prices were low for FY25. So that said, you know, we average out the 5 years. So we've got 21 through 25. The averages came out pretty good. You'll see that the societal benefits here, and this is for the value of solar. This is the societal benefits took a little decrease at first there, and that's because how the policies changed. Basically, the formula for that is we look at the societal cost of carbon report from the federal government. We align that with the EIA report for the carbon intensity of the ERCOT market. And then, you know, as the carbon intensity goes down, the societal benefit value goes down. The societal cost of carbon report, if it goes up, the societal benefits go up. So for 21, 22, and 23, we use the 21 report from the federal government, which had those years categorized and future values for those. And that was the prevailing report for those 3 years. For 24 and 25, the prevailing report was the update to that, which occurred in November of 2023. So that's the prevailing report for 24 and 25, multiplied by the EIA numbers, and you get these results. I'll go into this in a little bit more detail at the EUC and RMC meetings next month. So if you're interested, please tune in and you'll see some more numbers behind that and a bit more detail there. So the good news is that overall, the value of solar rate is going up. So it's currently 9.9 cents. It will be adjusting to 12.88 cents in November. November 1st is what the planned date for that. So it's going to move through the budget process with the other rate updates. And I see that Valerie has a question.
Oh, I was saying woo, but Kaiba has.
Oh, okay. Kaiba has a question.
I was like, woo.
That's awesome.
I just want to say thank you, Tim. I know that we've been having some conversation about how that was going to be calculated, and I think this is, in alignment with the data and the science. And thank you, and to whoever else was working on this. I think this is really good news. So thanks.
Yes.
I am curious. I had looked not long ago for the EIA data for ERCOT for 2025, and it looked like I couldn't find it.
It hasn't been produced yet.
Okay.
So what we do is we take the test year -1 because that's on a delayed schedule. So that's how it works out. And that's part of the formula.
Oh, so the FY25 calculation is on FY24 data.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And so it's worthy of note that the current administration assigns a 0 value to societal cost of carbon, which Austin Energy is not aligned with, and I think the city of Austin is not aligned with. So for the next update, we plan to have stakeholder meetings to align on a methodology that actually values the earth. So,
Yeah, spot on. I
Um,
mean, thank you.
yes. So as it pertains to the standard offer, the solar standard offer, and as you know, the societal benefits are not included there. So while the current standard offer is based on 21, 22, and 23, in November, this will include 24 and 25 as well. And that will bring the standard offer price down. So currently, the standard offer price is at 11.24 cents for systems under a megawatt. And I'm primarily going to talk about that because we haven't had any standard offer projects even proposed that are over a megawatt yet. But there is the under a mega or over a megawatt price as well, which you can see. But so it's going from 11.24 cents to 9.58 cents. So that represents a change and one that, we've kind of been expecting. And it represents some volatility within this rate. So, and this is just really quickly, we'll have these rates posted on the website. They'll go into effect November 1st. But because that rate is going down, because the rate uncertainty would lead to less or no uptake of it, we have put together a commercial standard offer guaranteed minimum price. So the program that is now in place and will be applicable to all projects that have not been interconnected yet. The floor amount on that, or the guaranteed minimum price, is 11 cents for systems that are under a megawatt. So the way that works is like so right now, if the system's producing, or let's say we installed one, it got this incentive. Right now, we'll get 11.24 cents. In November, when the rate changes to 9.58 cents, I think it is, you'll get the 9.58 cents payment from the standard offer program, and then an additional payment from the incentive program that makes up the difference between that and 11 cents. So adding them both up, 11 cents. If at the next rate change, it goes down even further, the incentive will increase and maintain that 11-cent floor. If at the next change, it goes up above 11 cents, the incentive does not apply. Pretty clear, right? That's in place and stabilizes the rate for the first 10 years. So the first 30 megawatts of projects are eligible for that. So any questions about the standard offer guaranteed minimum price? Kaiba.
Well, again, thank you. I think this is a significant improvement. My question is about the first 10 years. Are you saying that on a rolling basis, the floor applies to an installation, or that AE is making that commitment 10 years from today and then it will be revisited?
Good question. Yes, and it's 10 years from the start of the project.
Okay.
So it's similar to the PBI. The first 10 years of the project will have the rate stabilization through the standard guaranteed minimum price.
Okay, yeah, that, maybe that's good. I'm curious if you have already received feedback, if that's long enough to, recover the cost, but nevertheless, certainly an
So we did
improvement.
have some stakeholder engagement, and we've been reaching out to stakeholders, particularly the financer side of things, and our indications are that they are aligned with this.
Glad to hear it.
The incentive that you're calling, let's say it does drop below and you've got a makeup, does that incentive, is that a separate bucket that you guys invented, or is it coming out of, first of all, commercial budgets?
It will come out of the commercial incentive budget, but we'll adjust the budget to meet the needs of that, of the demand of that program on an annual basis.
Okay, so if the standard, not the standard, but if the regular CBI, BBI program is an annual budget, this doesn't cannibalize it.
Right.
Per se. Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? So just so you know, we're targeting 70 megawatts for the standard offer. So after this 30 megawatts, we'll revisit it, or as we approach the end of the 30 megawatt tier or tranche here, then we'll revisit it and determine whether or not it needs adjustment up or down, or shorter or longer.
Sorry, one more question. On the tier capacity, and kind of progress towards that, do you have any specific goal for how quickly Austin Energy would hope to achieve that 30 megawatts, and any triggers for evaluating the floor for, I guess, to see if you're on track to meet that target?
That's a great question. We haven't determined what those points would be. I'm open for input on that, though. And I don't want to, just have a program that's not active. We never want that. So if we, and we keep our eyes on these programs on the daily. If we see that this program is not effective at the current rate, then, we'll consider adjustment. So
Okay.
right now,
And in terms
in
of
my
like,
view, this is the most effective incentive that we could potentially have on the table. So
yeah, no, I think it looks good. I'm just curious, like, do you have a view for how long 30 megawatts should take through this program?
I'm not sure, but I'm hoping it goes quick, because I'm thinking that this is going to, that customers and developers are going to act on this relatively quickly so that they can maximize this as well as any federal tax credits that are available.
Yeah,
But
I would
that
agree.
said, through safe harboring, that could give them 4 years. But I would think that this gets consumed faster than that.
Yeah, I would think that maybe this amount, like by 2 years, I would hope would be achieved. So, I don't know if you're comfortable in some way indicating like,
Not on the fly, but
yeah,
I think we can talk more about it and have future
Great.
stakeholder meetings. I would imagine that we'll have an update to this and just be very transparent about how it's going within, 6 months to a year. And then just, like really kind of look and see what's happening and then get more input.
excellent.
So beyond 70 megawatts, is there any, what plan?
I think that's far enough out that we'll have to wait and see what the market reality is at that point. It could be that the market prices are up far enough that it doesn't need incentives and stuff, and it can keep going. But I'll say that the standard offer in general is not, there's no like expiration on it. And there's no upper limit to the amount of megawatts that can be achieved through the standard offer. But the incentive portions, we definitely put limits on. And, we throttle that. And, the incentives are very purposeful to get the industry past market barriers.
The other thing I'll just add to that is that we are all very focused on our resource and generation plan goal. So to the extent that, this is getting us closer to that 405 megawatts, that's what we're focused on. So I agree with everything that Tim is saying, but the largest goal here is 5 megawatts.
Did everybody hear that online? Were you able to hear?
No, if you could
Richard
repeat
online?
the questions and comments, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, please do. Thanks.
Yeah. So the question was, what happens after the 70 megawatts? And my answer you heard probably, and then Richard's comment was that, we're really seeking to achieve our resource generation plan goals of 405 megawatts by 2035. So that will be factored in.
You got somebody online. You got a hand up.
We have a hand up? You can just come up mute.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to, sorry if this has already been said, I just want to confirm I'm understanding correctly. So after 10 years, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. After 10 years.
After 10 years, the rate will be dropped back down to 9.58 cents for years 11 through, the rest of the project's life. Is that correct?
No, after 10 years, the rate will fall back to the prevailing standard offer rate at the time. So
Got
we'll
it.
have adjusted by that time. It may be up or down, but whatever the prevailing rate is, that's what the production will get through the end of the life of the system.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that rate will adjust every 3 years based on the market.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So now we're on to residential leasing, and Micah Jasuda is going to come present. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. This is stakeholder meeting number 4 on residential leasing. Excited to share the hard work that honestly, we did together, and then we've kind of put the finishing touches on. So I'll start with the same kind of intro for anybody new to the conversation. So what is solar leasing? It's a third-party ownership arrangement where a leasing provider owns the equipment for the solar and battery equipment. The installation contractor installs that equipment, and the residential homeowner, they are effectively the host for that equipment. So they have their same Austin Energy bill. They're getting value of solar credits for the solar energy from the solar system, but then they're also paying a lease payment to the leasing provider. So leasing it's new to our area. It's new to our service area. So it creates some two kind of challenges for things that we wanted to make sure that we addressed when rolling this out and enabling residential solar leasing. So one is a customer protection concern. So it's just new to our customers. There's some terms and what happens when certain things happen during the life of the system that are new and need some education and some disclosure around. So, and then there's a legal issue where Austin Energy is the sole provider of retail electricity in our service area, and we need to maintain that. And so it's been like this for a long time. Why now? Why are we opening up solar leasing and putting some guidelines around it now? And that's because of the market. We want to be responsive to the market. We want to give contractors and customers the tools all the tools that we can provide them so that the residential solar market stays strong. The residential tax credit has expired, but commercial projects that are leased to residential customers. So these leasing projects would be commercial for the tax credit. And so because the tax credit can be made available to residential customers through leasing, we expect this to be a pretty competitive offer. And we expect that the demand for this offering will increase over starting now. So, we wanted to open it up, but also do it in a careful way that creates a good customer experience for Austin Energy customers, and then also helps the contractors and everybody else working in the market succeed. So what did we do? This is the customer process. We've wanted an interconnection agreement for a while now. We have one for over 500 kilowatts and up. But it's been a long-term goal of our program to have an interconnection agreement for all residential projects. So we were tasked with, let's think about how do we get this leasing form in front of everybody? Well, an interconnection agreement would be a great opportunity to do that. So customers who go through the rebate program, they get a great education through our education program. They learn about solar, they learn about our solar programs, our rules, our processes, the rate, the value of solar rate. If they don't go through the education program, they miss out on all of that. So the interconnection agreement is an opportunity to get that education in front of them, get everybody on the same page as they embark on their solar journey. So we've developed that, and Valerie's going to come up and tell you about that form and in a couple of slides. But tacked on to the back of this new interconnection form is what we're calling the attestation and disclosure form. So it'll be very clear in the interconnection agreement, if you are leasing, if you are not the owner of the system, move to the page 3 and 4 and fill that part out. So the attestation form is the way that our legal developed this, and it's the way that we're protecting ourselves from retail competition. So I'll show you it in a second, but it's effectively just a signing off that there's no PPA or any kind of energy sales included in the agreement. The disclosure form is something that this group co-developed. So we had 3 meetings, and in those meetings, we've incrementally gained an understanding. First, a foundational understanding of what's in a lease, what are the concerning pieces of leases, then talking about, okay, how do we, let's learn about those pieces. Let's talk about how do we get those pieces in front of customers so that there's a transparent process where everybody gets on the same page, and we hopefully create a good alignment of expectations and therefore a good positive customer experience. And then meeting number 3 was, let's prioritize those issues and then come to agreement on how this really, we made that form during meeting 3. And then I just put all everybody's ideas onto paper. Parallel to this, Valerie and her team have been working on a customer education component. So adding on customer education into our existing customer education website, our home solar guide webpage. So she's going to be unveiling some of that today as well. And then the nice thing about this process is that it doesn't, other than a new form and a new checkbox in the ECP, the rest of your processes stay the same. You apply for permits and receive permits same way that you always have. Now, of course, we're adding plan review, so that's had some new processes. But as far as leasing goes, it merges right in with the existing processes. Same thing on the incentive side. There should be a new drop down that just where you select this is the lease project, so we can track it. So timeline of how we got here. We had our first meeting January 28th, then February 18th, then March 4th, and then here we are April 1st. We've developed the interconnection agreement, the attestation and disclosure form. We've integrated it into the leasing, the home solar webpage. We're getting it into A, B, and C, which is the public facing side of Amanda, the permitting system, EECP, and all of our other systems. And then we have an official launch date of April 15th. So I've been telling y'all end of March, might slip into April. So now it did slip into April, but we have an official firm launch date. Pieces of this are already ready today, but we want to launch it all together as a package. We don't want to give you partial and then, have like a weird staged rollout. We're going to roll it all out together on April 15th. So just a summary of the last meeting we had. These were the big items that we captured as the top priorities: payment escalated, performance guarantees, ownership changes, maintenance contacts. New news that I have to share: VPPs and lease battery control. So our virtual power plant program rolled out last week. Very exciting. A demand response. It's called Power Partner Battery. Unfortunately, I'm going to throw the vendor under the bus. They do not enable leased batteries to participate in their programs. So therefore, leased batteries are not allowed in our VPP program. So I've been saying, my understanding as we've had these meetings is that they would be allowed. So this is unfortunately a turn on what I had told y'all previously. But this is the latest and greatest information. We're always going to be looking to improve, and we'll see where it goes in the future. But as of now, unfortunately, no lease batteries can be enrolled into the Power Partner Demand Response Battery Program. Okay. Getting into the attestation and disclosure form. So this lists all of the different terms, and then I'm going to show you a picture of it in the next, a screenshot of it in the next slide. But attestation, customer and owner must agree and sign. Austin Energy is electric provider. There's no PPA being entered into, no power purchase agreement being entered into, and that the customer will get two bills, one from Austin Energy and one from the owner. So that's what everybody will need to sign off on. The customer and the leasing provider, their system owner, will sign off on the attestation. Then the next page has these four categories: payment escalators, performance guarantees, ownership changes, and maintenance terms. Or sorry, I said maintenance terms, it really is maintenance contacts. So let's go through them, and I want your feedback. So I've got a couple of questions prepared, but the last question is open invitation for feedback. So be thinking of your feedback. If there's, while this language has gotten approval through most of our channels, it can be tweaked. So, you guys are the ones on the ground floor. If you anticipate that the customers are going to be confused by anything here, now's your chance. Please tell me, and we can tweak it. We can work on it. You'll see it okay here. Let's see which one is more viewable. Let's just do the actual form. So the attestation, I just kind of read through the high level, but you can take a second to read through it together. It's not very long. A lot of duplication between the customer side and the third party owner side of this. Is it viewable? Is it readable? Might have been easier. Might have been easier on the previous screen. Yeah, let me go back to here then. So, digest the payment escalators piece. What we're asking for the annual escalator percentage. So a lot of this stuff I've seen is in the kind of the federally mandated form. So hopefully this isn't a lot of duplication of effort, because you already are filling this stuff out for the federal compliance document. I forget what it's called at the moment. But the annual escalator percentage, the lease term, the number of years, and then what will the monthly payment be in year 1, year 5, year 10, year 15, year 20, and year 25. The federal form requires you to list out the payments for every single year of the term. So this is actually asking the less of you than that federal form. Hopefully it's pretty easy just to copy and paste or look at that federal form and then copy it into here. And then the total sum of all the monthly payments over the term. That is also a required piece of that federal disclosure form. So hopefully this is not a whole lot of, there's not a lot of duplication, or it's an easy duplication to do. It's not having to duplicate work, just copying information over. Customers having this right in front of them as they're having to sign, I think it adds a lot of value to this experience. So performance guarantees, this is maybe the most wordy piece and where I have most of my questions are at. So we're going to ask them to use the check boxes and check how is their system performance guaranteed with their contract? Is it a dollars per kilowatt hour performance guarantee? And in there, we have a line that says performance guarantees with monthly dollars per kilowatt hour true ups are prohibited. And then we are asking for the performance guarantee dollars per kilowatt hour. And then does that escalate along with the monthly payments escalate? Does the value that you're compensated for lost production, does that escalate as the monthly payments escalate as well? The answer can be 0. That's just we just want to have it out there for the customers to see. Now, other checkboxes that you might check: uptime or availability requirement. That, from what I've heard, is a pretty common way to back up the performance guarantee. Maintenance requirements. So the thought here is there maintenance language, strong maintenance language that requires the owner to dispatch a maintenance provider in a timely manner? And is that the way that the performance guarantee is backed up? There's a fill in the blank opportunity to fill in how your performance guarantee is being backed up, and then none. If there's no performance guarantee of any kind, check none there. So I'm going to pause for a second because I have some questions over this section, and I know there are some hands up. So start with Kaiba. I see Kaiba's hands up.
Thank you, Micah. This sounds good. And my question is really just if after this slide, we could go back to looking at the actual form. I actually liked seeing the wording of the questions. I mean, it looked good from what I got to read, but would love to see that again.
100%. Yeah.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
And maybe it's different language on the form itself, but the monthly payment, year 1, 5, 10, 25, suggests maybe something that's more comprehensive? I mean, there are some prepaid versions of the lease. It'll be confusing if there's now a statement about monthly payments, and even the question of two bills. Someone could pay it off. So that's an option. I think just not being too prescriptive on those and thinking of the prepaid species, how that would show up on language. Get what you're saying, like it's
Yeah,
you're not forgoing your Austin Energy bill,
right.
but the way it's paid, that would lead to some. way that-
Oh, okay, are you saying
This
between
looks
the,
like a 25-year lease in which monthly payments are the only vehicle by which.
so some kind of line here that says, that clarifies, we're talking about monthly payments for the lease?
Well, you could have a prepaid lease that has no monthly payments. It could
Okay.
be paid off. So there's an obligation still in
Yeah.
place from the lessor, but not necessarily payments.
Yeah,
Could you just
I
add
really
like
did it
unless prepaid or something like that?
less prepaid. Yeah, I mean, it still would be a lease system. I mean, maybe you just fill out the payments in the term that you have.
It
What
could
is the
be
term of a
could
prepaid?
be
Just 1 year?
0.
0.
Well, I mean, like in subsequent months, so
Right.
maybe it's, and I get if the federal is like every month, you're meant to disclose.
Right.
It's more of like a cash flow statement rather than terms. So if that's what you're getting at, that would allow you to
The
say. it's-
intent is to take the escalator from being abstract to being real.
Right,
That's the intent.
and there could be products that have no escalator and only one payment. Some customers may
Yep.
finance that lump sum payment by other means, like a traditional loan. So that's even on their side.
Okay.
And I don't think you want to
prepaid.
conflate this disclosure with the way that they're paying it if it's.
Right. Well, I wonder if the arrangement fits into this in day one and then it changes and it no longer fits into this, but we've captured the information and that's okay. And if you've gone off and financed the remaining amount and bought it out, is that, does that change the way we want you to fill this out? That's really good feedback. I am not sure how we create something that captures every solution, but
I think we can
Yeah.
capture that. I think prepaid leases are probably.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
So I think we can just, we'll figure out how to indicate that on the form.
Maybe we just have
emphasizing
like-
monthly, because
The
that's really
upfront
strong.
payment amount.
Right.
You know,
Just a box, is this a prepaid lease or something like that?
so what was the,
Yeah, really good feedback, because I know that that's gonna be a popular option. People who are looking for a straight lease will have that option available to them, but I think people who are looking to own, this will be another avenue to monetize the tax credit and end up with ownership. So, let's do some thinking. It sounds like Tim's got some ideas too. We'll come back around. Before we launch on April 15th, and see if we can fit something in there.
Micah, it was hard to hear all of the exchange
I'll
online,
summarize.
but I think you maybe said that you were gonna add something about like what the upfront payment was, or if there was a prepaid lease, is that?
We're gonna try and adapt this to adapt it to capture prepaid leasing as well. I'm not sure exactly what that'll look like yet. Open to feedback, Kaiba, or anybody on the call, if you can have thoughts about a way to capture prepaid lease information in here as well.
I mean, I think just adding a box, like one of these items that is, upfront payment. And so maybe the full amount is in that box and there's nothing for monthly payments. Or vice versa, there's nothing paid up front and it's all monthly payments.
Yeah, I like that. Upfront payment amount. Would that kind of match your contract terms and whatnot? Okay. Cool, that's easy to do. Great feedback. So here are my big questions. We'll go back to the slide after I ask these. Is performance guarantee the best term? So I had true up in there originally, and then through conversations, we came away from true up. We went to performance guarantee. There's production guarantee. Are there other terms that are more universal in contracts? Or is performance guarantee pretty well understood. Okay, I'm seeing kind of like yeses generally from the crowd. Along that same follow-up to that question, performance guarantee with monthly dollar per kilowatt hour true ups are prohibited. This is the exact language that our legal has given us the thumbs up to include. Is it confusing? I can add more language around it if we want to try and clarify it. We are saying what is prohibited. We're not saying what is allowed. That is intentional. Do you think customers and everybody involved here can you explain this to customers? Will it make sense? Are there any alternatives?
My understanding is that monthly is not okay. However, if it's bi-monthly, if it's, yearly, that's okay. Yes, I mean, it is confusing, but is there language that I would add in to make it less confusing, or is it more of just like?
Yeah. I think as long as it makes sense to y'all and it's not totally out of alignment with the way your contracts read, then it's something that can, explain to the customers. If it's out of alignment though, I want to hear about that. Yeah.
Is that a firm distinction that monthly is
Prohibited.
but
That's it.
bi-monthly is not? I mean, I thought it was dollars per kilowatt based on time. Like it's,
Just monthly.
Brought back some for that.
okay, got it. All right, thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way it actually reads in here is dollars per kilowatt hour spelled out, like written out in full words and then abbreviated, performance guarantee. And then in the little asterisk, performance guarantees with monthly dollars per kilowatt hour true ups are prohibited. And then performance guaranteed dollars per kilowatt hour, you fill in the blank. Performance guarantee annual escalator, you fill in the blank.
So is there a right or wrong answer there, or are you guys just looking?
I don't think there's a way that you could fill this, unless you're offering a monthly true up and you're saying that you're not, that would be a wrong answer.
Yeah.
But as long as you're not offering what is prohibited here, I don't think there's a wrong answer. If you check none, that's not a wrong answer to us. It may be a red flag for a customer, but it's not a wrong answer for us. Yeah.
I think somebody online has their hand raised too, but in your education, is the concept of a true up defined?
It may or may not be. We'll capture that in the next section of this meeting. But we can add it over time if it's something that is causing a lot of confusion.
Question, I think I'm a little confused. The interconnection agreement is going to be now application. I mean, it's going to be now for all residential projects. And then to that, we're going to add the attestation and disclosure form if they are leasing the system. If not, then it's not needed.
Correct. And it'll all be one document. So you won't have to chase down two separate documents. You'll just need to only continue on to pages 3 and 4 if it's a leasing arrangement.
Is there anything special with that we need to know for like people with loans?
No, you won't need to fill this out if it's a loan.
Okay, what about PPAs?
No PPAs are allowed.
Okay, thanks.
Given that the monthly true up is the real sticky wicket, does it make sense just to have a attestation that it is not that? Because the way that reads, it's asterisk, and then I would have the same question like, so true up, but it's prohibited. Like, what does that mean? If you're really saying like everything else but monthly true up, I'm attesting that it is not that.
We could add that. I mean,
I don't know if that.
it may not, it's kind of asking people to attest. Yeah, it's a little,
Like it's an anti-lobbying disclosure, like I'm not lobbying.
yes, right. I think we could, that's good feedback. Yeah. So we just move that up to the attestation piece of it. We have customers' lease payment is solely for the lease of the equipment and is not dependent on the amount of energy produced by the equipment. That only covers the monthly payment, not the true up. Yeah, I like that. It's a good solution. We'll see what we can do to fit it in there. So my last question on this section specifically is maintenance requirement. So I kind of dreamt this one up on my own. I've never seen anybody do it. It just seems like something that could be done if they're in the absence of, if there was no other option. Anybody heard of somebody offering a performance guarantee that's backed up by rigid maintenance requirements?
Maintenance by the homeowner, you mean?
No, maintenance by the by the owner, leasing provider. So leasing provider says we have a performance guarantee. The way we're guaranteeing that performance guarantee to you is by saying, if there's ever a maintenance issue, we will respond within 48 hours. If that exists, let's keep it in. If not, let's remove it. Yeah, fine.
You can put it in. I would just emphasize that the only controllable aspect of that is just an availability guarantee.
It's an availability. Yeah.
Can't control the weather.
Yeah.
Panel washings are debatable, the efficacy of them is debatable.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's either a 1 or a 0. Is it available or not? Certain strings or inverters and optimizers are out. That's extremely nuanced and very difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, what is your goal in including that exactly from a consumer? What with the maintenance?
I want Mike to repeat
Oh,
it so they
sorry,
can hear it on my side.
Sure. Repeat what the question, maintenance requirement. Is it something that people have seen before? Or which question, Tim?
Whatever question's being asked
Okay.
out here in the field. 'cause
So
we can't add
Tuan
the
said
answer.
that it is really more of an uptime guarantee, and so they're kind of the same thing, and that it's really hard to enforce a maintenance requirement. That one microinverter going out is going to be tough to include in a blanket maintenance requirement like this. Like
Yeah,
after that,
and specifically, any sort of production guarantee, like on the back of, weather.
yeah, you can't control the
It's
weather.
impossible. That's
Right.
That's, you're gonna run around in circles when you're looking at weather data.
Right. Can't control the weather. It's going to be really hard to control a performance guarantee with a maintenance requirement. Or even an uptime, it sounds like. Yeah, Stan.
Yeah, my question was really if you have maintenance contacts, are you
Yeah.
trying to surface that a consumer has a number to call? Is it maybe a presumption of like they get the call at their discretion? To Juan's point, like it's not working the way I want it to work, yet it's meeting the performance expectation, and that sets up. Now you're introducing like a contractual intervention that may be against contract. So you could, I mean, maybe it's just like O&M included, because that would be a term of the lease to say reactive and proactive service is part of payment. There's no additional cost. Do that per the contract terms. Like that to me is a tighter question. Get to consumer protection.
So if I were a customer, I would want to know who to call if I suspect there's maintenance issues. Does that put burden on the owner to do research and determine whether there's actually a performance issue? Yeah. But I would want to know who to call. And that's what this is. So it says under the D, it says, who should the customer contact with maintenance questions and concerns? And so that's the intent of it. I'm very okay with removing the maintenance requirement from the performance guarantee. It sounds like that's causing more confusion than it's helping. And also that could be captured in other. If that is a one-off term from a leasing provider, that could be fill in the blank in the other there. So I think that's what I'm hearing is this is confusing. So let's remove the maintenance requirement piece. But the maintenance contacts, I'll have to hear a little more to be moved on that. I think it's important. Yeah, go ahead, Tuan.
Yeah, so the practical reality is that maintenance contact, whoever you may list, they're not going to pick up the phone, and ultimately the customers are going to call Austin Energy. And so, as a customer service, not necessarily intervention with the contract, you can point them in the right direction with knowledge of, certain stipulations that may be required.
So you're saying, do you think that there may be lease contracts where there is no contact information given to the customer for if they believe there's a maintenance concern?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they will provide some contact, but over the longer term, that contact will disappear. Or the customer will lose the contract and they won't know who to contact, and so ostensibly, they always call me. See this, seen it a lot. Oh, yeah.
I think if we get a call from a customer saying that their leasing provider is not answering their phone for maintenance issues, it's gonna be, opportunity for us to educate the customer that this leasing provider is not giving you what you need. I think that's exactly why we do need this here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of active, ongoing customer protection. I mean, and that's not, you're not gonna be able to enforce it in a contract, because you're not a party to the lease.
That's
right?
true. Yep.
So you say, okay, well, look, I mean, we understand, and this is just helping the customers and protecting them. Say, okay, well, your contract should say this. If it doesn't do this, then this is what you may consider for recourse. And whatever complaint it is that may emerge, and there are idiosyncratic complaints among retailers. They just don't know how this stuff works. I mean, you kind of have to hold their hand, which is great. I think it's great.
Okay. Yeah, fair concerns, Sean. Yeah, a couple more hands up. Saw Rachel. Oh, wait, sorry. I think I saw one online first. Sorry, Rachel, hold on. Yeah, Kayuba, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a little hard to hear Tuan, but I think he was essentially saying that these contacts would eventually become outdated, which I
that's right.
hear. That makes me think that I would love to see, I know Austin Energy has a whole kind of guidebook of requirements for companies that are, participating contractors in the incentive program. And I think that for leased systems, it is reasonable to require that they keep the customer informed with a current contact for maintenance.
Can I say something?
Let's go in order. We'll go to Rachel.
Sorry.
We'll come back around to you too. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that I'm not upset about having the number in, whether that's the lessor that you're putting in, because you're gonna call them first. I mean, and then as far as like the owner calling, great. I mean, also, if the system isn't operating, the owner can stop paying the lease payment, and that's not what the
Hope so.
Well, one would hope, but that's kind of getting into like.
Yeah.
Issues, so I think that, yeah, having a number, because like, I think at one, company that we work with, there is a specific company who call for maintenance, and I think having that in this form.
We've got one vote of support for the maintenance contacts. That's great.
Can you summarize, because it's really hard to hear in the
Yeah.
room.
So Rachel says that they have a maintenance company that they would have as a contact. And the risk is greater, I'm paraphrasing, but the risk is greater for them to not answer their phone because then the customer will stop paying their bill. It's better for them to answer the phone. So while there's risk that the contacts will be outdated, there's also very good business reasons for them to not become outdated.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Go ahead, Tim.
Because like, we've heard this before, right? But Austin Energy doesn't feel comfortable saying, oh, hey, maybe you should just stop paying to a customer, right? And a lot of times customers don't feel comfortable not paying because they're afraid they're going to get into some kind of penalty situation.
Yeah, that's definitely not something you guys should tell them.
Right. So it kind of begs the question, when we get these calls, how should Austin Energy respond to the customer? Like, oh, sorry, that number isn't working for you. Guess you're on your own, because we're not party to the contract. We don't really have a vested or can't really interfere there.
So Kayuba mentioned having like a list that we made, or a rule in the handbook or something.
Yeah, but we're not, we don't have participating lease providers.
Right.
We have participating installation contractors and they're separate.
I'm gonna see if the new TDLR rules, because we do have leasing as part of those rules, to see if there's some way for us to capture that so that Austin Energy could say, call TDLR.
Right.
You know, they can offer you support. So let me
That
just,
would help, yeah, because
That would help.
TDLR supposedly will have some teeth here.
they will.
And we really, we don't want to even be in between this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Well, and that
I'm gonna
consumer protection.
go back
bill
to
is
Twan,
designed
and then I'm gonna come to
protect us.
Stan.
So
Right.
let me,
That's out of order. But-
Is that out of order? Keep me up, Stan, and then Twan. I'm going right next to each other.
No, just a suggestion. I have kind of an issue with maintenance because it does, I mean, Juan's point, like there's, customer just thinks I'm now need to be monitoring for maintenance and it's contractual and it could be layers deep. So, but something like customer service, it's a point of contact. And I think what you're trying to get to is like, is there someone to call? And is there a record? Is there a way to memorialize that? And I think this document, even more than a big contract that they might sign, the customer will have this email to them. It'll be part of their record. They'll need to maintain that. But the customer service contact, I think is good visibility.
I like that.
I mean, we don't want them to call you or us or the wrong party. I mean, there may be multiple numbers, but it's what's the wrong number?
Strong suggestion. Yeah, would you be okay with us leaving in the sentence underneath it, the word maintenance is like maintenance or other customer service questions and concerns?
Yeah, I mean, the language in a lot of the contracts is O&M.
O&M, yeah.
So it's a kind of contractual term. If you're referring to that, then it's,
Kind of,
you
yeah.
want to make sure like this is a contractual term, not just general like, hey, homeowner, you need to make sure it doesn't break down on your own and
Right,
get there and
right.
check it out. Because it leads to, I don't like the color today, I'm going to call somebody.
Yeah, okay,
It's
okay.
funny.
Great perspective. I appreciate it. Come on, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel's right, is that, the lessor needs to be a contact there. I mean, as far as the course and non-payment, all of that, the reality is that the lessor is a financial entity. The person who's actually performing the maintenance is a contracted company, local maintenance company, installation company, right? So, there's gonna be a disconnect between, no, there's not supposed to be, but ostensibly, there will be a disconnect. So the problem is that if the customer stops paying, then the lessor will then have a dispute with the O&M provider where the lessor says, hey, you bozos, you didn't service the asset. Now these people aren't paying us. And then they can't get money out of the bozos. They can't get the bozos to do anything. And it's too late. The customer's already not paying, and then lessor starts throwing liens on the customer's property. So, I mean, all of these are just realities of what's gonna happen. So I would just say, in addition to these contacts, what you require is a sticker to put on the inverter on the side of the house with who to contact. Well, that's never gonna go away. That contact has to be consistent. That could be a stipulation that you require in the lease. You have to have a contact that's available and, et cetera, et cetera. And then
I like that.
It doesn't know, then they're liable. If you don't have that contact on there, the customer doesn't know the correct person to contact, then customer says, hey, you don't have the contact and I don't know how to seek recourse against you, then I have a right not to pay you.
So Twan's
Remember,
bringing up
it
that
might- it might
there's a
change
different
year
company.
6. I mean, in that area might change in year 6 and then.
Right, and then that's out of date.
Yeah, it's flex.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these parties involved. So you have the lease provider, the owner, you've got the installation contractor, and you might have a third-party O&M provider. So that's why I've left room for 2 contacts in here, is so you can have more than one person to contact. But I like this, and then Ron suggested a sticker that lives on the inverter of who to contact with maintenance. I suspect a lot of contractors do that already, but it's not a requirement. They want the maintenance business, so I suspect it's in their best interest to put that on there, but
They don't really want the maintenance. Well,
some might not.
to the extent that there may be a warranty, they don't want that liability.
gonna keep us moving. I see Michael's flagging me.
Yeah, there's a question online from Michael, I'm gonna say the last name wrong, I apologize, Michael Sharif, am I saying that correct?
It's Michael Sharp. Thank you.
My apology.
No worries. My apologies. Actually, I'm coming into this a little bit late, and some of this data may be a little bit old, but about a dozen years ago, I advised NREL when they were publishing a paper on securitization of solar finance. And one of the things that we found was that because of the increased complexity of third-party owned systems, they had the potential negative impacts on property values. They didn't transfer cleanly. They were requiring a separate buyer assumption and qualification, and they complicated the appraisal process. So in some cases, appraisers were valuing them at zero. In some cases, appraisers were actually valuing having a solar system on the house negatively. I do not know if there's been any work on this since that time, but would this have an impact on appraisals for property tax valuation? Something that I'm sure the tax folks would really be upset with. And then secondly, would this have an impact on the property value at sale and compared to homeowner owned systems? And would Austin Energy have to disclose some of this, or would they be expected by homeowners to get in the middle of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not tax advisors, so I think that's not as much as I can say on that.
Well, no, this is not a tax issue. This is an appraisal issue. So for example,
We're not the Travis County Appraisal District either. So, I think that question really extends to all solar and not just lease solar. I do understand.
no. It was very different if the homeowner owned the solar, it was very different. It had a very good positive impact on valuation.
I understand. That's a subjective valuation, and it's going to depend on the party who's evaluating it. So we do have in here, the lease can be transferred to a new homeowner at the following cost. I think that's as far as we're willing to dip into that subject. Beyond that, I think it's on the appraisal district, the tax advisors, the people doing the sales to be straight up about it. And then in the end, I don't think we can say what's going to happen in the appraisal process. That's, even on a loan, you still have to worry about paying off the loan before you sell or what have you, or liens on it. I don't, trust me. I mean, everything you said, I agree with everything you said. I just don't think that Austin Energy is the right entity to address those concerns. And if it is, then it's maybe something through like education or guidance, but not through policy. Yeah.
Mike, could
Follow
just underscore, if Austin Energy, I think it's a good issue. The reality is the appraisers here in Austin don't recognize the value typically, even despite comparables and penetration. If there was an opportunity to host a stakeholder meeting around that group and to ferret out this issue, because I think it is a complexity and people will figure it out. But the appraisal community here has been very, very conservative, in some cases just deaf to the whole thing, regardless of if the experience in other places is different.
I mean, if it's a hassle to change ownership, it's going to potentially be something that a buyer is going to be concerned about. But really, it depends on the buyer. If they qualify for it, it may not be any issue to take it over. If they don't qualify, it's going to be a much bigger issue. So it's really hard to standardize that conversation.
So with regard to.
But I like the idea of stakeholder meeting on it. It's something we can research further. Yeah.
So with regard to property taxes here in Texas, any generating asset that's on site is exempt, period. So that's.
If it's commercially owned too, third party owned?
Yeah, third party owned. I mean, explicitly, it was clarified 2 sessions ago that any leased systems are also considered on-site generating.
Michael, did you hear that? So Juan is saying any on-site generators are exempt from property taxes. I know that doesn't address your appraisal question.
So I can.
Well, it impacts it for purposes of property taxes, but not in purposes for value of the property at sale.
No, you cannot property tax any solar generating asset on a residential roof in Texas. It's considered on-site generation, which itself is exempt from all property taxes. I don't have the statute about appraisal.
Yeah, to recover, I understand that.
Okay, and so I was going to get to that. So what we've observed in the market right now on third-party owned assets on rooftops in San Antonio, right? There's this blanket kind of supposition among the real estate market that everything is some crazy lease that needs to be, with liens released, and it's going to be complicated and needs to be bought out. And so as a result, there's, in some instances, buyers and their agents are insisting that the solar be removed from the property prior to their closing. Therefore, not only are they, asserting that it is not worth anything, but in fact, it's a liability to the current owner of the property. It's wrong, and they're silly to look through that, but if you're a seller of a property and it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and you want to close, you just have, we just had this. And, the homeowner knew exactly the mechanics of all of this, been in our program for a long time. He's like, I'm telling the buyer that, this, and this, and they just won't listen. And so that's an effect of, kind of the taint in the industry because of bad practices and, over protectionism,
So just to summarize real fast, the pendulum have swung. There's been some bad actors in leasing. And so in San Antonio, Tuan's company has experienced the negative ramifications of those bad actors is that buyers of a new home that have a lease system, a third-party owned system, just want it removed. And so, the reality is there. So, continue. I just wanted to summarize for the people hearing silence on the call.
Yeah, so stepping back, contextualizing this, and I raised this in the last meeting, is that, over-regulation is one thing. You can only do something, that actually ends up chilling the market, right? Because everybody says all solar installers are bad actors because, some negative articles in the Express News and a bill that passed through, the legislature in an attempt to protect customers. Now everybody thinks solar is bad.
Right, okay. So if we step too deep into it, we start
Just
to
FYI, we're getting ready to
propagate.
a fairly significant campaign, educational campaign in different languages, different newspapers, so on and so forth, to educate consumers and, basically try to stop some of that bleeding, as well as, inform them what to do in the future of blah, blah, blah. So, I get it that Sarah Donati or whatever her name was really did damage to the market, but we're going to try to help clean that up.
Yeah, that's great. I think that, it's the market kind of readjusting to the realities, and there will be good companies that emerge to service this segment. Just FYI, we're in the process, we have a company that does that. But it helps to resolve and consult people.
Oh, great point. So if Austin Energy gets too deep into this with policy, it starts to propagate the idea that leasing is just bad, a blanket bad thing. And that's not the take that we want to have and the message that we want to send. More that just be informed and be aware, but, make the best decisions for yourself and your family. So, yeah, I think that echoes our general mentality as well. And the closing thought on that was the good actors, as this grows, will outspeak the bad actors, and we'll start to regain that good reputation. And also Pete and her work with Texas and TDLR will help create some rules around all of this to help with the reputational aspects as well. So running low on time, y'all have seen the form, you've given some great feedback. We've went through the pieces that I've wanted to ask about. Question number 4, open invitation for feedback, questions, etc. After this, I'm going to hand it over to Valerie. She's going to do interconnection agreement, solar education, and rebate process. Any other questions on the leasing attestation and disclosure form?
Maybe this is what Valerie covered. Is the form would be?
Oh, signatories are customer and third-party owner. Customer and third-party owner.
I'd just like to say thank you.
Our pleasure.
And Austin Energy for trying to make this work and coming up with a way to make this work and helping the industry. And I think you've done a great job. Thanks.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. I'm gonna hand it over to Valerie Paxton.
We covered a lot of things, and I want to do a time check too. It's 205, and we also, I'm gonna kind of cover like the customer experience side of what we were talking about, and then we also have some really great developments in our permitting system as well with plan review updates there. Without further ado, so the residential interconnection agreement is a form that a lot of utilities have. I'm sure a lot of you guys are already familiar with interconnection agreements for residential systems. I imagine you're all are raising your hands here and online. Austin Energy hasn't had one because we've tried to reduce and streamline paperwork. We've always, assumed that our rebate program with our education component, and then also our process of having to install a meter to start a system, protected our customers. Since we've seen such a great concern for consumer protection in general through this process, we figured it was a good time to dust off our residential interconnection agreement draft. Not all of it applies to leasing, so this is something that all consumers installing solar will be able to see. And part of the nature of it too is that customers that maybe don't go through our rebate program, which we were seeing, there were a few years where unrebated solar systems became almost half of the residential solar systems that were installed. So we realized that all the work that we put into customer education, which we really feel is necessary because of our value of solar rate, because of the differences that we have in the Austin Energy territory, which we think also we've less complaints than you have in San Antonio and other areas, right? And leads to a healthier industry, makes for better informed customers, a stronger industry, better solar systems, better Austin Energy, all of those things. So as we noticed that more and more customers weren't participating in that process, we wanted to have a residential interconnection agreement that did what we could to kind of pull some of that into a document that everybody could see. The intent of this interconnection agreement is that it is written very plain language, very simple. I'm assuming that my least trusty friend I wouldn't even lend $20 to is looking at solar. What is he going to get out of like a piece of paper that's an additional piece of form that he has to see when he's signing? Because this is a document that gets signed by the customer. So we really tried to make it accessible for people that maybe feel like they don't have time to read another piece of paper. And through this, my portion of this is to talk about the customer experience, what they're going to see going. There are questions about leasing on there, so we'll definitely cover that. For the customer experience, embracing as an option, what we've done is really treated it in line with all of the other options with cash or a loan, so that we're not treating it very differently, and so that customers leasing or not are going to see the same information, right? And that goes along too with incentivizing it. We're not ostracizing leasing, like we're bringing it into the fold, and not giving it a bad name, and we're trying to do what we can to educate our customers. And then we're also working, I saw some notes about NREL and some other data about loans and leases as a whole, so we'll talk about that a little bit at the end as well. What's really important for our interconnection agreement, these elements, of course, are also in our education component as well on our website, on our home solar webpage, but it will be on this form that people have to sign off on, is acknowledging that they're getting the value of solar and not net metering. That includes a write-in feature where the prevailing rate will be written. It's really, we think, some of the easiest things we can do for customer protection. And we like to be very clear, we can't do everything for customer protection. Like the most effective we can be is at the time that a contract is being signed, right? No matter what we do for customer education, we're not the legal entity to pursue these issues down the we don't have the resources. So we really do depend on customer education, and we do our best to make sure that we're minimizing like the amount of information that we give to customers is something that they're going to pay attention to. So a write-in option on this form, you'll see it on the next page, really calls out what the value of solar rate is. And, we feel like if a company isn't being clear on what the value of solar rate is, obviously that's a big miss. And so that's one way to make sure that customers understand the value of what they're investing in. We also cover our RECs. You guys should all know residential customers don't get RECs. That's compensated for in our value of solar rates. We also have some light touch, like customer facing language about design and operations and power outages and storage considerations. So obviously we have a lot more technical documentation in our DIG and in our contractor leasing components. This interconnection agreement is 2 pages, and it really tries to go over these things and what we hope a homeowner's attention span after they've been through sales pitches and looked at proposals and then, sign contracts and leases, like what it is that they're hoping, what we hope that will connect with them and be the most prudent. So we cover that they're going to get an additional meter for the value of solar, for their solar. We cover our right as a utility for permitting and inspections, to be on the property, and their responsibility as the homeowner to ensure that that we're allowed to come on property to do this without threatening us, and to inspect it if we consider that there might be something wrong with the system. We cover that the system shouldn't be operating before it gets permission to operate, and an update is that our permitting system now issues permission to operate as a very clear document. So thank you, Megan, for pulling that through, and the need of knowing that we're incorporating leasing and other and also still supporting loans that really need that document. And so we cover that as well. We do also give a little bit of production modeling guidance. Nothing, it's not a full course, but there's some language on there too. We leave some like future facing language about, our potential to set export limits to allow larger systems on a property than otherwise could be supported, and a customer's responsibility not to change things after inspection, and some future facing language about if we develop smart inverter policies that can help solar's general benefit to our grid. Regarding power outages, knowing that this residential interconnection agreement is both for solar and for storage. We do always make clear that if the grid goes down and you don't have batteries, that you won't have power. And of course, if you have batteries, that it needs to be installed properly with an ATS. And then also how billing works when there is a power outage. So that's kind of the high level. Here is the document itself. We will be sending this document out after the meeting. And so if I haven't stopped to see if there are questions, I will stop here for a little bit. But yeah. Give it 5 seconds if there are any questions. Okay. Open to further feedback about this. You guys will all get a copy of it, and then just know starting April 15th, these will be required for residential systems, new permits moving forward that get open, and Megan will speak more to that as she comes. So you will be seeing these shortly, but really they should be pretty common to other interconnection agreements that you guys have. Right. Okay.
Valerie, just I can't really read it, but I assume if there is a rebate involved, residential rebate, and it comes with owner obligations, territory and such, is this referred to that, or are they?
That's in the cap. Yeah.
Right.
The original intention of this too is that even if you don't go, if someone never looks at our website, and if they never take the quiz and they don't go through the rebate program, that it still offers kind of the basic. So there's nothing related to rebate program commitment. Right. And the customer agreement form, we've updated a little bit. You'll see it in a second. That still exists for.
Does it have language that says something like, if there's a rebate, that, like, are they tied together in any way?
These two. Well, so in this document, kind of talking about homeowner responsibilities for interconnection, not for rebate. Like, so if you violate this, like, we have the right to come and turn your system off. If you violate the rebate program, then that's handled on a different track. So I don't want to get them too confused, just knowing that not everybody always will go through the rebate.
Yeah, I'm guessing they will be confused, just because you'll have two documents that both look like utility. We can explain that, but it'll, in the end, like 8 years into it, they'll say something will come up. So anyway, just my consider, because this is kind of a new thing.
Yeah, we really wanted it to be customer friendly. Yeah, and we'll go through the education. I hear you're saying that customers may confuse it too. This document too, to be clear, like for every system goes in the permit and is also seen sort of early on. And the customer agreement form, it's just for rebated projects. And in our education, we do call out the two separate forms and their functions, because we don't want customers to be. So I'm hearing you. Oh, we're gonna, yes. So this form is pretty simple. For the contractor, I imagine we'll put the dollar per kilowatt thing that you see right there. And then the other information here is the address, the name, and their Austin Energy account. And then if they themselves are the owner, or if it's a third-party owned system, and then that takes them to Micah's form of, which will be pages 3 and 4 of this form. So we anticipate the contractor is going to fill it out beyond customer contact information and identifying who owns the system. The requirement is just the prevailing value of solar rate. And if it's not a lease system, then they won't move on to the attestation form, right?
One of the, did you say this would have a dollar figure on this?
Yeah, for the, we kind of went back and forth on what would be good. We really think that customers, like, we want to call out the prevailing value of solar rate because that is one of the like easiest identifiers of is this proposal accurate? Well, does it mention the value of solar rate and how that's how solar is going to be credited? If it doesn't, that's like one of the biggest warning flags of any proposal, whether cash, lease, loan, however, whatever. And so we decided that it would be a write-in. Also, it changes from time to time. And so that way, you know, we can, like, it'll change in November. Yeah, so we have it be a write-in kind of call out.
Okay, but maybe I heard like contract price or.
So that's not on the interconnection agreement form, and that's where that comes into play with the attestation form. And we'll look at the CAF in a minute. It's a CAF element. Yeah, nothing on this form goes into a database or we track it further. Like this is really for the customer to acknowledge, you know, simple things like we have the right to inspect the system, keeping our inspector safe. Also that they're getting the value of solar rate and not net metering, right? Like this is similar to like interconnection agreements you'd have for Encore, Blue Bonnet, and you're like, hey, you're going to interconnect, we'll let you do it, keep your system safe, this is what we'll pay you. You know, so it gives a lot of those elements. But I'm glad you're talking about the CAF because we'll go to the customer agreement form as well. So with the customer journey, the interconnection agreement is a new form we'll be rolling out that they'll be seen at the opening of the permit. So before work begins on site, we still have our home solar guide. This is the updated, if you guys are familiar with solar education course that used to live on ArcGIS, we moved that to our website. We got an award for it. So, you know, if you haven't checked it out, do. Thank you. And we've really tried to organize. Yeah, right. That's right. In our update, we worked really hard to streamline information. We know it's nobody's job to research solar except for you all. It's your job to research solar. It's nobody else's job to, and it can be overwhelming. So if you haven't visited the website, please do. It brings our cat up and I want more awards. Just kidding. But if you haven't, you should, because we really want you to share this with your customers. And so the accordions there are how solar works. Is solar a good fit for your home? Understanding your bill and estimated payback. That's dive deep on value of solar. Tell all your friends. Choosing the right system size, considering battery backup for outage resiliency and demand response. That part references our new demand response program. So yeah, send people that way, and cheers to our demand response program is getting enrollees for batteries. So we're really excited for them, and we're happy to support them there. How to choose a contractor and compare proposals, available incentives to go solar, meeting the eligibility requirements for incentives, how to apply for the Austin Energy rebate, system operation and monitoring, and relevant documents. And so that relevant documents section calls out the customer agreement form for the rebate, and then the interconnection agreement form as its own thing. So I don't want to have too many pass the whole idea of having everything on kind of one page. So we're not sending people, if you're not rebated, if you are rebated, right? But we do try to call those things out because I hear you. We don't want people to be confused. So yeah, definitely visit this, visit the page, check it out. I hope you guys find it useful. I hope that you use it with your customers, right? To walk them through the information is there. In those accordions, we also have these interactive home solar guides. So thank you to Ruby, who's in the audience. Oh, did Ruby? I'm about to say nice stuff about you. Okay. Well, she's great. Yeah. So what I'm really excited about what we've done here is, and I kind of decided with the time that we have, not to like walk you through all of these, but each one of these documents or online web pages you can go to are interactive. So you can, the idea is to pack a lot of information, but to place it visually where you want to see it, right? And so, you know, if you hover over the elements or if you ask about solar production for this one over here on the side, you know, it lights up and it tells you how it impacts your billing. So this is like if you were a visual person, this is going to tell you how value of solar works, right? Even with your battery. And if you are a numbers person, you can hover over this one and this is going to tell you, and the two are related, right? So we definitely encourage you guys, use these tools, point them out to your customers, so they can understand what their bill is going to look like and be happy with your service. And lastly, we have the solar proposal tool. So we have the solar proposal tool. The idea here is that it takes all of the common elements that a proposal has and then tells customers what they might want to compare across the board. Like, how do you compare like similar elements in different proposals? What are the key things that you want to look for? And of course, we talk about annual escalators in regards to estimated value of solar and also for any payments, right? So we really tried to simplify it, and we hope that having it be this sort of like, if you click on any of those yellow dots, a box pops up and it's like, here's, you know, you'll probably see a graph like this. This is what you're looking for here. Look across the proposals and get a feel for this. You're probably going to see, oh, well, I hid the picture, like a picture of your roof. Like, here's what you want to consider when you're looking at the aerial roof, right? So really hope that this be useful. Please do check it out. Give us feedback at Solar@, you know, and we're incorporating data, not data, but guides and leasing and PPAs. That's in this financing section here. And we're doing that alongside loans and cash. So we're really, you know, just folding it into our processes, folding it into our customer material. We're not treating it, and now Tom's done too. Just kidding. But I would point at him, let him know I was thinking about him. You know, we're making sure that it gets the same treatment that other options do, right? And so, yeah, being industry friendly there. So please check these out too. I hope they're fun. Give us any feedback at Solar@. So Home Solar Guide, that's the webpage. We did want to capture the elements that we took from our feedback from y'all from these conversations. And so we want you to know, I didn't put the whole webpage here. It's like, you know, it's a lot, and with interactive tools and visuals, it spreads out. So please look at it in your own time. We'll include the link in our meeting notes. But we did want you guys to be sure, even walking away from this meeting, that we've talked to our customers in hopefully a friendly and inviting, engaging way that makes them want to read more about how to look at solar proposals that include leases, how to consider, you know, PPAs and understand they're not eligible, how to identify escalators in regards to either how they might be applied to Austin energy rate estimations for payback or for payment escalators along the way. We do discuss repairs and maintenance. I want to be really clear. We're pretty light touch there because, you know, again, I think the best time for us to protect our customers in this is through education and at the time of approving the installation. I don't want customers to think that we can do something that we can't, and we actually include that in the material and in our quiz, right? Like, and in the interconnection agreement, like we're not responsible for, you know, performing their maintenance and contract disputes, right? So that's in the interconnection agreement. It's also on our webpage. It's also part of the quiz that for those who want to take the quiz and get the rebate, you know, we want to be really clear what our role is. We care about educating them, but we can't be pursuing, you know, long-term disputes. Like our ability there is limited. And so their best shot is education using the disclosure form that Micah has prepared to really kind of, you know, compare apples to apples. And of course, so, you know, we also have the PUC and TDLR guides as well on our web pages in multiple places. So we refer to those as well. And we definitely will be sending people there. That's the appropriate place. We let them know. So thank you for that. And so we also have updated a few questions in the quiz specifically to like encompass leasing. Some of those are the same elements that you might find in a loan, so we don't call out leasing specifically, we just say, depending on your options, you may want to look at like, what is an escalator, how could it be applied? So again, we're not targeting leasing specifically. That being said, when applications are being processed, here's the CAF stand for your comments. It's just the top half, but it covers what you want to see. And what's really important about the customer agreement form, as y'all know if you're participating contractors, is the information in this form gets put into EACP. That's our database. We pull up the data and then we look at how our programs are doing. So we capture costs here. So when it's captured on the disclosure form, we're not like doing data projects with that information. That's more of a disclosure for the customer to kind of be aware of what their payments may be if they're not familiar with applying escalators. But we really need that information for administering our rebates to make sure that we're administering the right amount as we watch uptake and see what happens with prices and all sorts of things. I see Aubrey's in the lobby. Okay, he's coming. We should all make fun of him. And that's what Aubrey said. So if you guys see it, oh, hi. I hope he's very confused. We'll continue. We do need to capture this information here. We just do this for the rebated projects. So we don't capture this information for non-rebated. It goes into our rebate portal. We've made some updates too as well. We already have the sales representative and a spot for them to enter their license for when that becomes live. We went ahead and put that on the form here. We know that people may not have their sales license right away. We also have, we've always had the participating contractor list their name and then also a subcontractor if applicable. So we've added here, you guys may not be able to see the loan and or leasing company. And we have put a spot for payment escalator next to it. And then down below, we have the system price or sum of total contracted payments. And I hear you, what if it's prepaid? Like, what if things happen? Oh, fine, yeah. So Megan has really exciting things to present, so I promise I'm gonna be like, this is my last slide though. So I just want you guys to know we are, how is this impacting the administration of our programs, and what are we going to be adjusting to make sure we stay on track? Like, this is where we're collecting that information. We also are working with a very broad Berkeley National Laboratory study of systems from all over the U.S. And asking them what they've been seeing with leasing as far as performance and just it's more data than they can possibly process in time, which is why I don't have results for you now, but just so we're tracking that locally as best we can, and then also on a national level. With that, so excited for all your feedback. We'll send all this stuff to you. Megan, take it away.
Also, I'll pass it to Michael first.
Michael, okay.
I can do that.
All right, my name is Michael Hansen. I'm a project manager in the CRS team. This is Megan. Megan, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi all, Megan Brennan. See some familiar faces, so nice to see you guys again, and nice to meet you. Those of you that I don't know, I'm the business process specialist for our customer renewable solutions team.
We're going to discuss a little bit about plan review. So we're going to start out by talking about the relationship between the customers and the contractors and the experience they have. We're going to talk a little bit about what plan review is going to do for that. We're going to step into what the plan review fees look like. These were adopted last year, November 2025, I believe is when they were published. I get back here where I can see the slides. I don't want to turn away from you all the time. Then we're going to talk about the actual development of the workflow, what's happening on the back end and on the inside of the process, and then what it is you're going to see as a contractor or customer when you're going through this process. And then we're also going to be touching on the interconnection agreement. As y'all seen, this has been discussed in every component of this presentation. It is something that's important and something that's new, and it's going to be coming out in the 15th. Okay, this is our goal. Our goal is to improve outcome. Plan review is to ensure that you do not have to have inspections. I'm going to phrase that, is to help reduce the need for re-inspections and failures at inspection during the process of go live. When you get to the end process and you get the inspection done and you find out there is a problem that could have been identified early on through a plan review process, it costs you money, it costs customer money, it delays the ability of the system to come online. That's our goal. these are the new fee structures that you're going to see. So real quick, right off the top, residential solar is not going to be part of this. There's no additional fees for residential solar. There will be for batteries across the board. This is due to the complications related to them and some of the issues that inspectors have come across. And then commercial is going to be where we see most of this, and this is where the large systems that have a lot of complications come in. There is a re-review fee. If there is a case where you submit plans and you have to have them re-reviewed, there's a problem with the plans, maybe more information is needed, whatever that process may be, there will be a second review that is not charged, and on the third review, there will be a charge for a re-review fee. This gives you an opportunity to resolve the issue with the inspector before you get with an additional fee. Any questions on that?
So are you saying there will be a plan review, but just not a fee for residential?
No, there's no, residential is not impacted from a solar perspective. They're not going to go through the plan review.
Residential batteries have plan review going forward, but residential solar, there's no plan review.
Anything further on that? No?
And just one note I want to point out to everybody here. We
Oh, yes.
currently today require an engineer's stamp on all residential ESS. Going forward, because we're doing plan review, we'll be removing that requirement for ESS only. It'll still be required on plan sets for 25 kilowatts and above for solar, but for ESS specifically, we're removing that requirement going forward.
Here is an example of what you're going to see in the way of differences in costs. On the left-hand side here to your, I guess your right, Island, you've got the current base fees that you're experiencing. On the other side, you see the addition of the plan review fee for this instance. Now, these are tier-based, just like the inspections are. So you're going to see different rates depending on sizes of systems, and that'll impact the ultimate cost. Next slide. This is commercial. This gives you a perspective of what commercial is going to be like.
For this example, this commercial system also does include batteries, so keep in mind that those are two separate charges for those two separate.
I don't know how often you guys do batteries, but that's a double whammy on that one.
So could you mind going back to the
Yes, sir.
residential?
Oh, sorry, the residential example.
I'm sorry, just,
What we're looking at here
okay,
is
this is at ESS.
system under 50 kilowatts, so it's got solar and batteries, and it's inside Austin city limits, so you're not worrying about the ETJ fee, that extra $20 or. Additionally, there's no other, additional fees here except for the ESS plan review fee, and again, there's obviously none for solar, so that's the only additional fee you would see on the residential.
I know.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what case it was.
Yeah, it's just a sampling, kind of give you an idea. And when we get through this, Megan's going to go through the actual back-end process, and then I'm going to show you the screens that you're going to deal with as a contractor or as a customer when you're going through the application process. And there is a page in there where you can pay these fees as they come up, and it's a step-through process based on what Megan's going to. The process.
It is, yeah, I just want to make sure. No other questions
Do you
about me so far?
Well, yeah, on the commercial,
Yes, sir.
maybe. So this doesn't have any DSD implications. at
Yeah,
this
we'll
point, but-
talk about that afterwards,
Okay.
but correct. There's no change to the DSD process whatsoever. In fact, in terms of the commercial DSD process, you'll still do that plan review folder, then the building permit, and then the auxiliary permit. And all of our reviews will be on the auxiliary permit. We've done nothing to change the plan review and or building permit process.
Was there a conversation about the DSD's plan review since they don't do a review?
We have not.
Pretty hefty fee.
I understand that. We've discussed it internally, but we have not changed it. I'll say that much. But it's a fair consideration for fee.
Is this an opportunity to say you're covering that? And, I know they may review it for other, if the project involves other.
Thank you for calling ATX Solar. This is Cassie.
It's an opportunity for us to discuss it, yes, and there's ongoing discussions surrounding all of this one. So it can be discussed. We have not looked at that from this perspective with this rollout.
Yeah, what we're trying to do now is just add this additional plan review, and then we're going to go back and sort of look at all of the fees.
Yeah, we just want to be clear, this is not representative of
Correct.
full scope
Plan
of
review
fees
and
as-
buildings, that's correct. Yeah, this is just for the scope of the office permit. Oh, thank you. Okay, Beth, go ahead. And sorry, I'm not summarizing very well at all. Did you hear everything that we said previously, or do you need us to summarize?
Well, I think that Stan was asking about the DSD fees and specifically the plan review. And my comment, I guess, is in the same vein. You know, we've been doing a few installations through Solar Austin, and they do fall in that small commercial level. And I don't know, the fees in some, not pointing necessarily to the Austin Energy portion, but the fees in total feel excessive, especially at the, you know, small scales, you know, 15, 20, 25 kW. So like, I think the intent of this plan review is good and the fee doesn't seem unreasonable, but some of those fees do feel unreasonable for what is actually being provided and the process is cumbersome. So I'd just say like, I think there's probably some like disincentive to like the smaller scale commercial systems, and hopefully that can be remedied quickly.
Yeah, that's great feedback, Haiba. Thank you. I'll just say for now, we'll definitely take this back as a conversation. There's no changes currently, but I do really appreciate that feedback, so thank you. Any other questions or comments on fees?
I just want to add,
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
we have designed our fees to be cost of service. It is what it costs us to perform the service. So that's the mindset we take into this. We'll have that same conversation with DSD.
Just as a, the legislation from last session that allows kind of third party, how does this interact? How might it interact? It hasn't really today.
Sure. I don't know that it does. We've sort of considered this an exception to that legislation because of the way that it's written to allow utilities to still basically continue their practices for interconnections. So we think of this as an exception and something that may be relevant to like the outliers, like that are in city limits but not in Austin Energy territory. That may be where that comes into play, but
Referring to the inspection.
1202, yeah, the third party inspection.
Well, permitting and inspection.
Plan review. And sort of-
Yeah.
I mean,
Great. Yeah. So it doesn't interact with us, but just because we're not going to be dealing with any of the customers that are not in AE territory, which would.
It's my understanding that SB 1202 does for munis. Are you saying that this is if a contractor goes through your process, this is what it's cost, or I'm not?
Yeah, we may have to take that back. I don't know if Mike or Tim want to speak to that in terms of 1202 and what we decided, Val, even when we talked to DSD about this. We were under the impression that I think SB 1202 does not change any of the Austin Energy practices in terms of permitting an interconnection, specifically because there's a carve out for utilities. But if you have a different opinion, yeah, we should talk about that.
Well, I can take it
If
up.
you guys want to speak to 1202,
SB
the
1202.
third party reviewer and plan reviewer.
When we were reviewing with legal team, so felt that the carve out for municipalities.
Yeah, we need to take this back. If there's differing opinions on that one, but I'm like, yeah, for at least for our purposes.
Well, I can tell you what I've heard.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do it in Austin Energy because you got, your threshold is very high.
Understood.
And so even if it's true or not true,
Mhm.
none of the third
People are not
parties,
gonna do
they're
it.
all saying, just go do it. So,
Okay.
just so you'll know.
That's good to know, but I'm like, yeah.
No, but I do
if you
think,
wanna
I do
follow
think
up and send
it
us
was
an
the
email, that'd be
intent
helpful. Yeah.
of the law for it to apply to munis.
Right.
Whether there's a different interpretation on, I'm gonna leave that up to everybody else.
Well, we went back and forth on this quite a bit. So I'm like, if you have another one, or if you're hearing elsewhere, like otherwise, please do send us an email and let's look at it.
Maybe worth the question that it's, it's not just the munis. I was thinking more of DSC, like that's, I
Again,
think it's really written for.
Yeah, and this doesn't impact their processes,
No, I
so the
understand.
two are separate. That's why we can't speak to it here. However, I think it's a valid question to ask, especially in terms of customers that are not AE customers, but still in that DSC service territory. For those customers, I think this is very relevant, so, yeah.
Question, if a customer is City of Austin and Austin Energy, does this mean that they're gonna need the DGPA, the auxiliary permit, the interconnection agreement and along with the CAT and then the interconnection agreement, where do we upload this?
That is correct. That'll be on the permit itself, and we'll actually get to a few slides in a minute, Anna, that I think Anna saw your
Yeah, I did.
hand up. But then I
Anna?
didn't see it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get to this in just a second.
I have
where
a
you guys can
screen
look at
on
the
that
process.
specifically for you.
And then I have the other following question is like whenever the customer is like with a different city, but still Austin Energy, then what's needed for that? When it's
Yeah.
solar plus batteries or versus when it's just batteries?
Great question. So that's going to follow the exact same process it would today. If it's commercial inside the city, you would still go through plan review and the building permit process. If it's outside of the city, you can do that on a standalone commercial auxiliary permit application. And that process is all.
Sorry, I was asking for residential.
Oh, for residential, you don't do plan review unless you're including batteries. That's true for inside or outside of the city. They would still require the aux permit, and then you would still upload all of these documents to that permit. Does that answer your question, Anna? Thank you, look good here.
Not sure. I want to wait on the next, slides and what you're gonna explain about that. Thanks.
That'll work. Yeah, for sure. All right. So looking at this permit process, everybody in this room is probably very familiar with what this looks like today. So I'm not going to spend too much time going into what this looks like. However, high level is that you submit the aux permit application. It would go through web application acceptance, which is a DSD process. Again, this is sort of a catch-all for commercial or residential. So what we're saying at this point is if and when it's commercial and they do go through plan review, they would conduct plan review, building permit review, all of those reviews. And then once the aux power permit application is submitted and opened, that's when plan review will start to apply. So in today's world, we do have an AE review that just covers the DGPA review. That is going to get kicked off for any systems over 25 kilowatts on the downtown network or anything with a grid side spinning generator. We will, during that review, confirm that the existing transformer can support the load that's being proposed by the contractor. Upon approval, you can go and pay for that permit application. The permit becomes active, and then contractor can begin work. So this is what it looks like today. In a couple of weeks or in tomorrow's process, there's a couple of changes here. And again, keep in mind that this is all after the DSD reviews and processes, so there's nothing that changes there. However, after they've reviewed and approved that this is the correct permit type and all the right details on that permit have been listed, then we would ask you guys if and when plan review is required, you would pay for those plan review fees up front, and then you would conduct plan review. The way that you guys would do that is, again, you submit the permit application, DSD would do their review, you'll get those fees automatically billed right after that. Pay those fees, and then again, it'll move into that AE review status so that we can conduct the DGP review and the AE review or the plan review. So again, when it's relevant, you'll do the AE DGP review first. Assuming that passes, you would then go into AE plan review. And of course, that's where our ICC E3 certified inspectors will now be reviewing your plan sets to make sure that they're compliant with all of our applicable codes and guides. And assuming that it is, that's when you get the approval. You can then go and pay the remainder of the permit fees, activate that permit, and that's when you would actually begin work. So again, all of this happens prior to that permit becoming active. You should hopefully have any, weird design issues or anything like that that's called out up front during that plan review process before it ever gets active and before anything goes up on the wall. So what's included in this plan review? Again, our inspectors will be who have gotten their E3 certification. So thank them the next time you see them for all the hard work that went into that. But they have made sure that they're prepared for this and ready to take on those plan sets and review those. So they will be reviewing those again for all applicable codes and regulations. If and when there's other functional areas, so like if metering or DSD, like if we need to engage building or anything like that, we're going to help facilitate that process so that you guys aren't having to go back to those different disciplines on like a plan review folder or building permit or anything like that. So we'll help facilitate that, give you guys points of contact or, help you get those answers during that plan review discussion. So again, you're not waiting on site for somebody, to show up at some date later in the process. Additionally, AE inspectors will provide pass and fail notices via email. Those failure notices will also include a list of deficiencies or the reasons that your plan review is failing. And then we'll offer 20-minute review meetings upon request. So you'll just reach out to us at solarinspections@austinreview.com, request that 20-minute meeting, and then we can review that with you in one-on-one. Again, you guys will be notified if and when AEDG passes or fails. So you'll get that via email. That also will live on the permit for the entire life of the permit. Which I'm like trying to think of records management. I don't know how long this lived, but a very, very long time. So if and when you want to access this, or like a new homeowner or something wanted to find, these documents, they could do that just by going to the older permit and looking at it.
Again,
Yes.
do you have an estimate of the duration of this?
In terms of how long it takes to get an answer back, we're sort of pitching 48 hours. However, it's sort of a moving target right now because we haven't done any yet.
For a plan review?
Yeah, to get back an answer so that you guys can either make corrections or, have something back to say, all right, here's where we're on the process. I'll look to my inspectors and see if that's reasonable or if you guys had a different expectation. That's what I think we were.
Complexity of the job, we can do it in 48 hours. I've been working on one for Dell Children's Hospital for a month, and it's all about just on the complexity of the job, how well somebody interprets whatever we send back. Corrections, and
That would,
So
I mean,
48
48 hours
hours pass or
even,
fail, yeah.
but even
Yeah.
for
Basically, yes. We're
response
trying to
would
shoot
be
for not
world
waiting
record.
a long time.
I mean,
You
just
could
for,
fail multiple times and plan review could last a
Yeah.
really long time, but we're trying to get you guys a response.
our experience with
A couple of days.
metering and PSD is you get a response, let
Yeah.
alone a review, so that.
And in
that's
fairness,
record
like,
time.
please do let us know if you ever run into that. We do want that feedback. That's definitely something that we're like going to be very, very well aware of and try to stay on top of. But if you have anything that's going beyond, don't CC your inspector. Just kidding. But do let us know because we want that feedback. We really do.
I think it's fair to say that the inspectors don't want it to drag out like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it fair to say there's a discussion going on about using Solar App Plus to help with this?
I'm like, is it fair to say we have been in discussion about whether or not Solar App makes sense and whether or not we are able to integrate it with our current permitting system? We're also undergoing a process of potentially replacing our current permitting system. And so there's questions around when we could implement Solar App. If we did, because if we're going to change our permitting system, we would potentially also be looking at adding Solar App with that new law. So yes, but probably not for at least another year. Like there's more there. Yeah.
I'm
I'm
just trying to
thinking,
remember, I think that's for residential only, not for
yeah,
commercial.
it is, but I'm thinking that if you can turn around 48 hours, there's no
Solar
problem with
App-
anything. I mean, at that
Solar
point,
app doesn't cover commercial or residential with batteries.
correct.
It's only for small residential.
Now, they're working on including batteries. So,
Understood.
yeah, they're,
And like Megan said, we've looked at it.
yeah,
We know that there are some complexities it's integrating into our current system.
Yeah.
That said, we're planning to update this.
Yeah.
So, we can't do two things at once there.
well, again, I'm saying, if you guys could turn things around 48 hours, nobody's gonna do anything but use your system. I mean,
Fair enough.
it's like, particularly since your thresholds are higher than most cities.
That's right.
Most people out there that do third party, they don't want to get involved with your process because they can't make money on it.
That's right, but there is also some benefit for standardization.
Yeah.
And so, that's why we keep looking at it, but when the opportunity's right.
Yeah, got it.
I would say that the reason I'm asking is speed is good, 48 hours is good. What I've experienced as challenges is sometimes the Cs look for information in the portal and sometimes it comes in email. And so just that having two interfaces of where to go or what's next in the step adds confusion and delay and risk.
Well, maybe those are the
So,
kinds of things that.
Fast is good,
need to be
integrated is
addressed.
better. Integrated and fast will be good.
That's great feedback. We'll
Yeah,
take this
and
back
we'll-
and look at it.
We'll want more feedback in the future, so.
Yeah. All right, any other questions on this?
Well, the emails and everything will live on the permit, so you can contact.
Yeah,
us.
it's
Always
almost
have
like that,
access
yeah,
to all
that's
that at all times. It's not gonna disappear. It's not gonna be hard for you to find. All that info is gonna be transparent.
And just for the online folks, just to repeat, because I think that piece is important. All of this documentation in terms of you will live on that permit. And so if you're looking for something and you can't find it, you should be able to always go back to that permit, download the documents or be there. And it's just-
I think this is your last
Is that my last one?
Good? Any questions?
Okay, we're good.
All right, I'm gonna talk a little bit about A, B, and C and what to expect. A, B, and C is the portal that you go with, sir?
One, maybe this may be a.
Yes,
I'm
please,
I'm not
please.
going anywhere, but yeah.
Okay, maybe it's a resource we could find, but the training, I guess the inspectors went through to become plan reviewers.
Yeah.
I imagine there's gonna be some different expectations about what our plan sets need to include. Is there a resource that we could look at as a preview? I mean,
See what changes might be coming.
well, not so much changes, but I mean, like Houston is very particular, San Antonio's different, and I don't know if that's a standard that they're working from, or if that's just their best practices.
Mhm.
But kind of see, and we'll learn, I'm sure we'll kind of co-evolve, but
Yeah.
there's something we'd look at, what's to be expected. Yeah, example or level of detail, because I
We
think
could
the level
probably
of
put something
detail.
together. Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I'm tempted to say, review our dig, our design criteria for what's gonna be expected in those plan reviews. However, in terms of an example of what you could expect, I think it'd be fair to say we could put one together and just say, here are some of the things you might want to be looking out for.
Yeah, I think because we're moving from a design build like that's inspected to a documented
Right.
proposal, and it's very different
Mhm.
in terms of what information we need to communicate.
Yep.
Because we'll need to evolve that way. The other question kind of related to the training and sort of, you said, all codes and all applicable codes. And this is my question back to the DSD and the building. We've just had, it is a pet peeve that we have something that says plan review, and now we're just seeing it. Actually, the real review, paid for that for years. But the different codes, presumably building permit covers structure and fire and whatever else the project might, gen up that's outside of the Ox permit. And so where are those lines? And I know it's a conversation to take back to the DSD, but
Mhm.
it's pretty crucial how we're interfacing with, viewers and or inspectors
Right.
in a very specific way. We've gotten zero rapport with the building inspectors and are kind of arm's length distance with the fire marshal,
Mhm.
and neither have a process.
I'll say this, when we were talking about this, we decided to keep it outside of the AE plan, the City of Austin plan review portion on purpose so that we could kind of, this within our house and also permits or our permit changes wouldn't impact somebody else. We also went back to DSD and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this, how's this gonna work with everything, if you guys already approved these other plan sets, and then we have changes, what can we do about that? And they agreed that they were like, you guys can keep it on your own, that's fine. If and when you've got questions for us in terms of disciplines or things that they may have missed, we can take that back internally so that you guys aren't having to go again and reopen those plan reviews. At least for now, we're saying we can be flexible enough to sort of help facilitate that. Now, we talked to DSD and they, like I said, if that becomes an issue where like every single plan set's coming back to them for questions, we'll have to revisit that requirement. But at least for now, they're aware that we're doing this and that the flexibility is needed there in discipline providing feedback.
Maybe just a related question,
Sure.
just the internal version of that, the metering. You made a comment that the team would be facilitating those discussions. Does that include things like the meter console?
It
And
does
those
not
are,
include it in terms of the cost, but it includes like helping you get to those steps. So like the meter alternate, like location removal, for example. Our team doesn't review and approve those.
right.
However, we would help facilitate at least getting that done and then.
I know there's been work to try to get clarity on guidelines, but is
Yes.
that part of the Trojan horse here, that this group
Well,
will help
yes,
define those, like
it's
this
it's
and obsolete?
yeah, it's a fair question. It's a separate part of the conversation, but it's happening in tandem. So we do have updates to the dig that are coming that hopefully will outline very specific instances of when service replacements or upgrades are needed, so that it takes some of that guesswork out of that part of it. Of course, we're sort of separate teams, so you'll always run into a little bit of an issue of, what one person has told you versus what another person has told you. However, with this new process, we're hoping to kind of mitigate that and start it earlier in the process versus later when you try to go get your PD meter installed and learn that the service needs to be upgraded or something.
I would like to point out that one advantage to using a system like SolarApp makes installers that work in different parts of the state, it simplifies it. If it's the same in Austin and the same in San Antonio, it just makes it so much faster and easier for them. That's the main reason. And SolarApp works with you on whatever tweaks and things that are different in Austin. They help you integrate that into the app.
And they have been a really great partner with us.
I like what you said about helping facilitate
Uh-huh.
communication.
Yep.
I know when I go to DSD, I can always talk to a person.
Yep.
Which is cool. I don't know if that same thing exists in this building, but I've been to DSD a few times and talked to Austin Energy people in that building,
Well, Amina.
but they're not necessarily the people that can answer my question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, generally speaking, I'm like, what question did you have? No, yeah, if you've got specifics on that, I'm like, email me and let me know. We might be able to kind of talk offline about who and what. But the idea here is that we wouldn't leave you and just say, go talk to these guys. We're gonna say, go talk to this email address. These are the people you can talk to get these answers. I know some hesitancy or so maybe some skepticism, very fair in all of this process. And in fairness too, to you guys, we will be working through some of this. So if and when you run into issues like this, please do let us know, because this is a new process for us. Very fair, all these concerns.
And the objective is, like we said before, we want you guys to succeed. So, yes, please talk to us. Any other questions before we move on? We're almost through. There's just a couple of slides left. You guys are probably familiar with the screen you see up there. This is where you log in if you're going to go into A, B, and C to enter for a permit. From here, these are the screens you typically see. None of them are changing. They're going to be the same screens that you see every time you go in to create a new permit. None of that changes. Where you're going to see a change is on these two screens. So somebody asked earlier, I think it was Anna, about maybe it was Anna, maybe somebody else, about the interconnection agreement. When you upload documents, you currently have the option of selecting interconnection agreement to upload. It is not mandatory currently. It will be approximately the 15th, I think is our target date. On the 15th, it will become a mandatory field. You will have to upload that document. So the actual interface isn't changing, just the requirement will not allow you to proceed till you upload that document. The other side of the screen, we're seeing the fees that would be associated with plan review. Prior to plan review taking place, you will need to pay the fees. They will be paid either in here or, as I understand it, you can mail a check to DSD.
DSD,
Yeah.
that's still doing it.
Something to that effect. But you can pay them right in here, make it simple. This is before you pay any of the other fees. You pay this, they go through plan review. If there's any cycles related to re-reviewing, that would take place through this as well. You will see some emails, as Megan had up there a few minutes ago, that'll notify you where you are in the process. And so that's pretty much the changes you're going to see. The actual system doesn't change, so what you're familiar with is not going anywhere. And that is the last slide. Any questions?
Well, 3 o'clock on the dot.
Okay, thank you very much.